Today, we are going to embark on an incredible journey through the life of one of the bravest and most faithful men in the Bible, Daniel. Daniel's story is filled with adventure, trials, amazing miracles, and above all, unwavering faith in God. So, get comfortable and let's explore the fascinating story of Daniel, a man who never gave up on God, no matter how difficult things became. Our story begins in a time when the people of Israel were taken far away from their home, all the way to a place called Babylon. This happened because the Israelites, God's chosen people, had turned away from him. As a result, the Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Jerusalem and took many Israelites captive to Babylon, including a young boy named Daniel. Chapter 1. Daniel's journey to Babylon. When Daniel was taken to Babylon, he was just a teenager, maybe around 15 or 16 years old. Imagine being taken away from your home, your family, and everything you know, and being forced to live in a strange land. But even in this strange land, Daniel didn't forget about God. He continued to pray and trust that God had a plan for him. King Nebuchadnezzar wanted the best and brightest young men from Israel to serve in his royal court. Daniel and his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were chosen for this special task. The king ordered that these young men be trained in the ways of the Babylonians. They were even given new names. Daniel became Belteshazzar, and his friends became known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, one of the first challenges Daniel faced in Babylon was about food. The king provided rich food and wine for these young men, but Daniel knew that this food had been offered to idols, which went against God's laws. He didn't want to eat anything that would displease God. So, Daniel asked the king's chief official if he and his friends could eat only vegetables and drink water instead. The official was worried and said, "What if you don't grow strong? The king will punish me." But Daniel trusted God and made a deal. "Test us for 10 days. Let us eat only vegetables and drink water. Then, compare us with the others who eat the king's food." After 10 days, Daniel and his friends were stronger and healthier than all the other young men. Daniel 1 verses 12 to 15. God blessed them for their faithfulness. Not only did they look healthier, but God gave them great wisdom and understanding. Daniel could even understand dreams and visions, which would later become very important. This first test shows us how Daniel stayed faithful to God, even in a foreign land, and how God honored Daniel's obedience. Sometimes we might be tempted to do what everyone else is doing, but Daniel teaches us that when we stay true to God, He will bless and protect us. Chapter 2. Daniel interprets King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. As time passed, King Nebuchadnezzar had a strange dream that troubled him. He didn't understand it, and none of his wise men could explain it to him. The king became so angry that he ordered all the wise men in Babylon to be killed, including Daniel and his friends. But Daniel didn't panic. He knew that God could help him. He asked the king for some time, and he and his friends prayed to God, asking him to reveal the meaning of the dream. That night, God showed Daniel the king's dream and its meaning. The next day, Daniel went before King Nebuchadnezzar and said, "No wise man can explain your dream, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries." Daniel 2 verses 27 to 28. Daniel then explained the dream to the king. The dream was about a large statue made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. Each part of the statue represented different kingdoms that would rise and fall. But in the dream, a stone came and smashed the statue, and that stone represented God's kingdom, which would last forever. When King Nebuchadnezzar heard this, he was amazed. He bowed down to Daniel and praised God, saying, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings." Daniel 2 verse 47. Because of this, the king made Daniel a high ruler in Babylon and put him in charge of many important things. Isn't it amazing how God gave Daniel wisdom to understand the king's dream? This story shows us that when we pray and ask God for help, He will answer. Daniel didn't rely on his own understanding. He trusted God to reveal the dream. And God did just that. Chapter 3. The Fiery Furnace, Daniel's Friends. While Daniel continued to serve the king, his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, faced a great test of their own. King Nebuchadnezzar had built a huge golden statue, and he commanded everyone in Babylon to bow down and worship it. But Daniel's friends knew that they could only worship the one true God. So, they refused to bow down. When the king heard about this, he was furious. He ordered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be thrown into a fiery furnace as punishment. The fire was so hot that even the soldiers who threw them in were killed by the flames. But something incredible happened. As the king watched, he saw not 3 men, but 4 men walking around in the fire. The fourth looked like a divine being. Daniel 3 verse 25. King Nebuchadnezzar couldn't believe his eyes. He called them out of the furnace, and when they came out, they weren't even burned. Their clothes didn't even smell like smoke. The king was so amazed that he declared, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." Daniel 3 verse 28. This story is a powerful reminder that God is always with us, even in the middle of the fire. When we stand up for God and do what is right, He will protect us, just like He protected Daniel's friends. Chapter 4. Daniel and the Writing on the Wall. Many years later, King Nebuchadnezzar's son, King Belshazzar, was ruling Babylon. One night, he held a great feast, and during the feast, something strange happened. A hand appeared and wrote mysterious words on the wall. Mean, tekel parsin. Daniel 5 verse 25. The king was terrified. No one could understand what the words meant. But then the queen remembered Daniel, the man who had interpreted dreams for King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel was brought before the king, and he explained the meaning of the writing. The message was from God, telling the king that his days as ruler were numbered because he had not honored God. That very night, King Belshazzar was killed, and the kingdom of Babylon was taken over by the Persians. Once again, God used Daniel to deliver an important message. This part of the story teaches us that even powerful kings must answer to God. God is in control of everything, and He will always do what is right.
Chapter 5. Daniel in the Lion's Den. Now we come to one of the most famous parts of Daniel's story. After the Persians took over Babylon, a new king named Darius ruled the land. King Darius liked Daniel very much because Daniel was wise and trustworthy. He even planned to make Daniel the highest official in the kingdom. But some of the other officials were jealous of Daniel and wanted to get rid of him. They knew that Daniel prayed to God 3 times a day, so they came up with a sneaky plan. They convinced King Darius to make a law that said no one could pray to anyone except the king for 30 days. Anyone who disobeyed this law would be thrown into a den of lions. Daniel knew about the law, but he loved God and prayed to Him every day. So, even though he knew it was dangerous, Daniel continued to pray. The jealous officials saw Daniel praying and told the king. King Darius was very sad because he didn't want to hurt Daniel, but the law couldn't be changed. So, Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. That night, King Darius couldn't sleep. He was so worried about Daniel. Early the next morning, the king rushed to the lion's den and called out, "Daniel, has your God saved you from the lions?" To his surprise, Daniel called back, "My God sent His angel, and He shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me." Daniel 6 verse 22. The king was overjoyed. Daniel was taken out of the lion's den, and he wasn't hurt at all. The king made a new law that everyone in the kingdom should respect and worship Daniel's God, the one true God. This amazing story shows us how powerful God is. Even when Daniel was in great danger, God protected him. And just like Daniel, we can trust God to take care of us, no matter what happens. Chapter 6. Daniel's vision of the future. As Daniel grew older, God gave him many visions about the future. Some of these visions were very mysterious and hard to understand, but they showed that God had a great plan for the world. God revealed to Daniel that kingdoms would rise and fall, but in the end, God's kingdom would last forever. Daniel was a man of prayer and a man of great faith. He trusted God through every trial, and because of his faithfulness, God blessed him with wisdom and understanding. The story of Daniel reminds us that no matter how difficult life gets, God is always with us. Whether we face challenges like Daniel did in Babylon, or whether we go through hard times today, we can trust that God will protect and guide us, just as he did for Daniel. Conclusion: Daniel's life is an incredible example of faith, courage, and obedience to God. From standing firm in his faith by not eating the king's food, to interpreting dreams, to surviving the lion's den, Daniel's story is full of moments where he trusted God completely. And because of his trust, God used Daniel to do amazing things. We can learn so much from Daniel's story. It teaches us that no matter what challenges we face, whether they're big or small, we should always put our trust in God. He is always with us, protecting us, guiding us, and giving us strength. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the life of Daniel. I hope this story inspires you to be brave, to trust God, and to remember that He is always by your side, just like He was for Daniel. God bless you.